Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're running a really targeted analysis based on the sources you've been sharing with us.
That's right.
We're trying to figure out the stability profile of the United States as of, well, right now, December 2025. And the core finding is it's intense.
It is. The U.S. seems to have moved past what we'd call high instability into something new.
A new state the sources are calling coercive instability.
And what that means for you is pretty simple. Stability isn't being maintained by institutional consensus anymore, not by agreement.
So how is it being maintained?
According to the analysis, it's purely through the application of raw executive force. This is happening because the system is at what the analysts call the fatal intersect.
Okay, the fatal intersect. That's where this internal institutional breakdown, I think we can call it the appellate void because the courts can't agree on anything.
Exactly. That breakdown collides with acute external pressures and, the active militarization of our internal politics.
And the sources describe the state itself as a debtor in possession.
Yeah, think of it this way. The government isn't managing the nation like a stable, ongoing thing. It's treating it like a distressed company, an asset to be liquidated for short-term gain.
That creates this paper tiger paradox. To really get at the structural rot behind this, we need to unpack this three deltas framework.
Right.
So, okay, let's unpack this. The framework argues that the political window, what we all talk about on the news, is completely disconnected from the ground truth.
By three accelerating degrees of change. The first is Delta 1, positional shift. You could call it the Cassandra effect.
The Cassandra effect.
The system has internally shifted from management mode to pure survival mode. But the problem is mainstream institutions, they can't process that data.
So the warnings get ignored. We see the economic instability score, the EIS, hitting 79.3, a level we haven't seen since 2008.
And yet policymakers are still applying phase 1 solutions like tiny rate tweaks to what is very clearly a phase 3 crisis.
That brings us to the second one, Delta 2, shape, the bifurcation trap.
This is where the whole national conversation, the Overton window, it hasn't just moved. It has shattered into two completely mutually exclusive realities. The narrative dissonance index is at 9.3.
Which means people can't even agree on basic facts anymore.
And if you don't share a language, the state loses all its legitimacy. It can't govern by consensus. That's what forces the executive bypass, the shift to ruling by decree.
And finally, Delta 3, speed.
The rate of this divergence is accelerating, and that's the jerk. Now, the jerk isn't the collapse itself. It's the inevitable, violent kinetic shock that's needed to snap the political fantasy back into alignment with the economic ground truth.
Okay, so if those deltas are the theory, let's look at the data.
Right.
Where does this rot show up in real time? First, the economic data, that EIS of 79.3, and what the sources are calling the data fog.
And the most critical threat here is what's called epistemic risk.
Yeah.
The risk that we just don't know what's true anymore.
And that was magnified when the Bureau of Labor Statistics canceled key reports, right? The BLS void.
Yes, that forced the Federal Reserve to make these huge rate decisions in a complete vacuum. It makes a policy error almost certain. They're flying blind.
So when that private ADP report dropped, showing a shocking loss of 32,000 jobs...
It had a massively magnified psychological impact.
Okay, now let's connect that economic chaos to constitutional decay, the CUI at 88.2. It's driven by jurisdictional rupture. The big one is the 14th Amendment crisis.
Right. The Supreme Court granted cert on birthright citizenship.
Just by agreeing to hear the case, they've shifted the entire constitutional Overton window. It signals that the very definition of who is an American is now on the table.
And that legal instability is already translating into kinetic action. I mean, look at Operation Swamp Sweep down in New Orleans.
Federal agents are treating an American city like it's hostile territory.
And they're threatening to criminally prosecute local officials who hinder their operations. This is creating a dual state where federal agents operate with total impunity, just bypassing local law.
So, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you? The analysis suggests the system can't self-correct peacefully anymore.
It leaves two paths, really. One is soft secession. You'll see blue states and cities like New Orleans just refusing to comply with federal law.
Nullifying it within their borders.
And the other path is the inevitable kinetic shock of the jerk. The sources are very clear on this part. Our adversaries see the U.S. as a fragile Goliath. They are incentivized to strike now.
Because war acts as a forced synchronization event, it can override all these domestic fractures and justify emergency economic measures. So that leaves us with the final question. What specific external event will be the shock the system needs to realign our political reality with the economic ground truth?